And this verse says, therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything, for you are like a desire tree. So this is Canto 3, chapter 21, verse number 15. And the purport says, in spite of his condemning persons who approach the Lord for material advantages, Kardama Muni expressed his material inability and desire before the Lord by saying, although I know that nothing material should be asked from you, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition. The phrase like disposition is very significant. Formerly, boys and girls of similar dispositions were married. The similar natures of the boy and girl were united in order to make them happy. Not more than 25 years ago, and perhaps it is still current, parents in India used to consult the horoscope of the boy and girl to see whether there would be factual union in their psychological condition. Psychological conditions. These considerations are very important. Nowadays, marriage takes place without such consultation. And therefore, soon after the marriage, there is divorce, separation. Formerly, husband and wife used to live together peacefully throughout their whole lives. Nowadays, it is very difficult task. Gardama Muni wanted to have a wife of like disposition because a wife is necessary to assist in spiritual and material advancement. It is said that a wife yields the fulfillment of all desires in religion, economic development, and sense gratification. If one has a nice wife, he is to be considered a most fortunate man. In astrology, a man is considered fortunate who has great wealth, very good sons, or very good wife. Of these three, one who has a very good wife is considered the most fortunate. Before marrying, one should select a wife of like disposition and not be enamored by so-called beauty or other attractive features for sense gratification. In Bhagavatam, 12th canto, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, marriage will be based on consideration of sex life. As soon as there is a deficiency in sex life, the question of divorce will arise. Kardama Muni could have asked this is benediction from Uma, where it is recommended in the scriptures that if anyone wants a good wife, he should worship Uma. But he preferred to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead because it is recommended in the Bhagavatam that everyone, whether he is full of desires, has no desire, or desires liberation, should worship the Supreme Lord. Of these three classes of men, one tries to be happy by fulfillment of material desires. Another wants to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme. And another, the perfect man, is a devotee. He does not want anything in return from the personality of Godhead. He only wants to render transcendental loving service In any case, everyone should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he will fulfill everyone's desire. The advantage of worshiping the Supreme Person is that even if one has desires for material enjoyment, if he worships Krishna, he will gradually become a pure devotee and have no more material hankering. No more material hankering. Okay, so this is verse 15. Canto 3, chapter 21, verse 15. And I'll just read the verse again. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything, for you are like a desire tree. Okay, so this is all about Kardama Muni. And he's explaining his material inability and desire before the Lord. And he says, although I know that nothing material should be asked from you, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition. So when it says like disposition, it means the same disposition. In other words, uh, a woman who has the same, let's say, uh, type of personality as the husband. So he wants to find a girl who has a similar type of personality that he has. Uh, I mean, if he marries a woman that has absolutely no similar likes in life that he has, then there's going to be incompatibility. They won't get along with each other because they have completely different, let's say, goals and completely different uh, things that they like to do. So they wouldn't be able to get along with each other. So he wants to find a wife of like disposition who is like himself, who likes the same things, who likes to associate with the same kind of people, like to eat the same type of food, and so forth. All these different similarities. Okay, so um, Kardama Muni says, although I know that nothing material should be asked from you, meaning Krishna, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition. In other words, I want to get married with a girl who has the same interest in life as I do. And because that way they can work together to achieve the same type of goals, or and because they both are interested in the same things. If he marries somebody who's completely different than him, then it's going to be hard to have, uh, you know, uh, the same type of disposition, the same type of likes and dislikes. But if he marries a girl that is completely different than him, has different goals in life and so forth, then it's going to be a problem. You're not going to be able to get along with each other. And that's why he says, uh, although I know that nothing material should be asked from you, meaning Krishna, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition. And Prabhupada says the phrase like disposition is very significant. Formerly, boys and girls of similar dispositions were married. The similar natures of the boy and girl were united in order to make them happy. Not more than 25 years ago, and perhaps it is still current, parents in India used to consult the horoscope of boy and girl to see whether there would be factual union in their psychological condition. These considerations are very important. Soon after the marriage, there is divorce and separation. He says nowadays, uh, marriage takes place without such consideration, and therefore, soon after the marriage, there is there is divorce and separation. Formerly, husband and wife used to live together peacefully throughout their whole lives, but nowadays it is a very difficult task. So this is true. I mean, once you look at it, how many people get divorced in the United States? Well, that's about 50% for the first marriage. And then when they get married again, it's like 67% uh, divorce. And then when you get married for the third time, it's like, uh, you know, 70 some percent. Uh, so what does it say?
Yeah, initially.
673,989 divorces and annulments in the United States, which is a rate of 2.4 divorces per 1,000 people. So in 2022, the CDC reported that there were 673,989 divorces in the United States for that year.
Yeah, but if you take the lifetime, it's
Yeah, what's the percentage of married people that get divorced?
42.
yeah. So around 45%. And then, as you said, once they remarriage, the statistics,
It goes up.
yeah, goes up
So
to about like as every marriage, it's 15% jump.
the divorce rate in the United States is around 42% as of May 2024.
Okay, 42%.
Yes. And then lately they claim that the divorce rate has gone down, but that's because people are not even getting married.
Yeah, they're not getting
Living
married.
in.
Yeah, they don't want to get married.
Russia has the most divorces, Maharaj.
Russia, how much? How much?
Stable. Russia has the most divorces. United States is the fourth most divorce state. The least most is Hungary.
Least
The least
divorces.
only this table. I mean, in this table, it's showing Russia is the highest in
In the world.
yeah higher.
Russia
Well,
and
there are some
Belarus.
doesn't give. It gives like the main countries that people like mainly know, like Ukraine, United States. The United States is like
Well, Prabhupada, after he got married, then he spoke to his father. And he said, I don't really like my wife. He said, I want to marry somebody else. And then his father said, look, just be satisfied with this lady that you married. You know, don't get married with anyone else. So he took his father's advice, you know, so he never married anyone. But he clearly said, I never really liked my wife. Although they had 5 kids together. Yeah. So this compatibility. There was uh, this boy and girl devotees, and they went. They got a. Uh, they wanted to get a, compatibility reading of uh, what do you call that?
Horoscope.
A horoscope. Yeah. So it came back that they should never get married because they were completely different. You know,
Mm.
one from the other. So the boy came to me. The devotee came to me. He said, "Look, my wife and I had my uh, fiance and I had our horoscope, and it comes out that we're completely incompatible. What should I do?" So I said, "Well, uh, if you were not a devotee, then I would say you should believe what the horoscope says and not don't marry that woman." I said, "But if you're going to be a devotee and you're serious about being a serious devotee, then completely ignore that horoscope." So, because the horoscope said that there was no way that they would get along in their marriage.
Mm.
They were so completely different. So I told him, I said, "Look, if you're a karmi, then you should believe what he's saying. You know, it'll be hell for you to marry that woman. But if you're a devotee, then you can ignore it because, and if she's a devotee, you can ignore it because uh, these type of things like horoscopes and things don't really pertain to them. Meaning, they don't really pertain, or they're not really significant as far as devotees are concerned."
Is it only if both of them are
Yeah,
devotees?
both.
Yeah, otherwise,
Yeah.
I can answer.
So he followed my advice, and they're still married. It's been a long time now. They're still married, to my knowledge. They used to live here, and then they moved to, I think, Texas or somewhere. So this whole marriage issue is well, let's put it like this: it's if it's mostly it's based on sex desire nowadays, whereas previously, uh, in some cultures, the boy never chose to marry the girl never chose to marry the boy. It was decided by the parents of both, right? And and somehow or other it worked out. And oftentimes the boy and the girl had never even seen each other. The whole thing was usually it was arranged when the boy was like 8 years old and the girl was like, uh 4 years old. And the marriage, they wouldn't live together, but the marriage was already determined. And the girl knew that she has a husband, and the boy knew that he has a wife. And when the boy became, let's say 16 or 18 years old, and the girl was 12 years old, they get married. They wouldn't try and have children right away. They might wait 2 years or 3 years. So that was the case with Prabhupada. He gets married. I think he got married when he was, I think, I'm not sure, maybe 20 years old, and the girl was only like, 8 or 10 years old. Yeah. And then they wait a couple of years, and then they start having children. Why don't you look at that up if you can see, find out how old was Prabhupada when he got married? How old
He,
was his wife?
he was 22 years old.
Okay, his wife was
So younger.
much younger, like 12, I think. And then after he got married, he came and talked to his father. He said, "Look, I don't like this girl, you know." And the father said, "Oh, no, you should just be satisfied with it."
He was about 16.
She's about 16. Yeah.
Same here. I was married It's quote by Prabhupada. I was married when my wife was only 11 years.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, she was only 11 years old. And he said, after he got married, he talked to his father. He said, look, I don't really like this girl. I'm going to get a second wife. And the father convinced him, don't do it, just be satisfied with this girl. And he said, I never really liked my wife. Yes.
Only young, very young girls were married. Even and my elder sister was married at the age of 9 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
So
they wouldn't live together right away. They wait till the boy, could, earn a living. And sometimes they'd have to wait maybe 5 years or more, and then they would live together. But the girl knew that she was married, and the boy knew that he was married. So nowadays it's very simple, very interesting. Nowadays, girls don't get married till like they're 40 years old, you know. And boys, I mean, they just, I don't know, everything has changed, whereas before, the girl's only 12 years old or 8 years old, and she knows she has a husband. They might not live together yet, but they both know that, they're married. So this whole thing about, dating and, and having different types of girlfriends and things like that, it wasn't happening. Everything was determined at a very young age. Like if two fathers would meet each other, and the girl's only maybe like 8 years old or 10 years old, and the boy is maybe like 16 years old, and they would say, "Okay, I want your son to marry my daughter," and they'd agree, and then they wouldn't have the marriage right away. They'd wait some years until the boy was able to earn a living, and then they would have the marriage. But there wasn't any of this, dating and all that stuff, nonsense stuff that goes on today. Yeah, yeah. And they would also have the horoscope done. The one time that, like I said, there was this devotee. He came to me, said, "Prabhu, said I was thinking of marrying this girl, but I had a horoscope done, and it turned out that I should never marry this girl, so we'd never get along with each other." He said, "What should I do?" I said, "Well, if you're not a devotee, I would believe what the horoscope says and don't marry that girl." I said, "But if you're going to be a devotee and she's going to be a devotee, then you can ignore what it says, because uh, the uh, the mundane concept of you know uh, on the horoscope does not pertain to serious devotees. But if you're not going to get, not going to be a devotee, then I would believe what the horoscope says." So even though the horoscope came back that they would never be compatible and they should never get married, but then he married her, and they're still married now after, so many years. So uh, if you're both devotees, then you can tolerate situations, and you can the horoscope and does not really pertain to devotees that are strictly following Krishna consciousness. Although Prabhupada would ask sometimes, to get the opinion of what do you call those people?
Astrologer.
Astrologers. Yeah, he would uh, ask, like about, sickness and things like that. And they go ask the astrologer. But actually, in other places, Prabhupada has said that this astrology does not pertain to devotees, because they're completely under the protection of Krishna. Okay, so Um, yeah.
So another thing Prabhupada said. So I heard that my mother-in-law was married at the age of 7 years old. I was a grahasta and I was also married. My wife was 11 years old.
Yeah. That was a normal thing. You know. That way there was no dating and no, uh, going to parties and all things like that. You know, the women were very, young girls were very much protected, and the boys also. There wasn't this easy, having relationships, boyfriend girlfriend thing. It just didn't happen. In fact, oftentimes the girl had not even met the boy, and the boy had not even seen the girl. But the fathers got together and said, "Okay, your son can marry my daughter," and like that, and they would agree, and that was it. And the girl knew that she had a husband, although she'd never even seen the husband, the boy, and the boy was going to marry such and such girl. They never even saw her. Then then until the day of the marriage, and you know how the girl's face is sort of covered with a shawl or something, and then once they having a marriage ceremony, at one point, the boy opens up the covering of the girl, and he said, "Oh my God, it's so ugly." Or she might be very beautiful. Who knows? But everything was arranged by the parents, and there was no, dating and all this nonsense stuff. Not going on a, like, for example, a dating um, um, they call this. You look on the internet, and find some dating page, and then you contact the person like that.
I think Maharaj, the education system now, somebody has to go to high school and then college. So it became very culture that people now not even thinking of marriage until the college is over.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at especially Indian uh, marriage, uh, okay, marriage, what? Marriage, dating, uh, uh, what do you call this?
Matrimony.
Yeah, matrimonial pages, right?
Mm.
Uh, it says, uh, uh, female Indian, born in a Brahmana family, is looking for a husband who is a PhD, also from a Brahmana family. And, it's a whole list of qualifications of the person, right? And it's like almost impossible to connect the two, because there's so many qualifications that they want, and they write it all out in the newspaper or whatever, the matrimonial page. So yeah, it's the best thing is to Prabhupada said, the best thing is not to get married. But if you cannot, then you must marry someone, that you can get along with. So he basically, after he married his wife, because it was an arranged marriage, he came to his father and said, "Dad," he said, I don't really like this lady." And the father said, "Oh, you should just be satisfied." He said, "Well, I want to get married to somebody else." He said, "No, don't do that." But it was allowed, previously it was allowed even for Hindus to marry more than one wife. Then the British come around and they say only the Muslims can marry four wives, but Hindus can only have one wife. And uh, actually, that was not a good thing. Before Hindus could marry more than one wife. Why don't you look that up?
I pulled out some matrimonial ads.
Okay. Oh yeah. They're really funny.
But saying again, so in that minor ages, there was no actual love between the husband and wife, but still formally the system was that the young girl, minor girl, was giving some eatable food stuff to the husband and some bad,
Sometimes
Pawn.
and sometimes bad, like that.
Sometimes what?
Pawn. That's a unique.
Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
on the heat.
The girl would cook something and offer it to her, so-called husband, but they were not really living together until she became older, at the age where she could have children. But sometimes, the girls were having children or babies when they were like 12 years old.
And yeah, Prabhupada's wife when the age of Prabhupada's wife when she gave birth to the first child was only 14.
Yeah. It was like a normal thing. Okay. So we are on Canto 3, Chapter 21, Text 15. So Kardama Muni is praying to Krishna, and he says, although I know nothing material should be asked from you, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition. The phrase like disposition is very significant. Formerly, boys and girls of similar dispositions were married. The similar natures of the boy and girl were united in order to make them happy. Not more than 25 years ago, and perhaps it is still current, parents in India used to consult the horoscope of the boy and girl and see whether there would be factual union in their psychological conditions. These considerations are very important. Nowadays, marriage takes place without such consultation, and therefore, soon after the marriage, there is divorce and separation. Formerly, husband and wife used to live together peacefully throughout their whole lives, but nowadays, it is a very different task. It's completely true what Prabhupada has written there. And then it says, Kardama Muni wanted to have a wife of like disposition. In other words, a wife who, like her, fiance, they have the same interests, and they can get along because their likes are similar. Okay, so it is said that a wife yields the fulfillment of all yields the fulfillment of all desires in religion, economic development, and sense gratification. If one has a nice wife, he is to be considered a most fortunate man. In astrology, a man is considered fortunate who has great wealth, very good sons, and a very good wife. Of these three, one who has a very good wife is considered the most fortunate. Before marrying, one should select a wife of like disposition and not be enamored by so-called beauty or other attractive features for sense gratification. In the Bhagavatam, 12th canto, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, marriage will be based on the consideration of sex life. As soon as there is deficiency in sex life, the question of divorce will arise. Kardama Muni could have asked his benediction from Uma, for it is recommended in the scriptures that if anyone wants a good wife, he should worship Uma. But he preferred to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because it is recommended in the Bhagavatam that everyone, whether he's full of desires, has no desires, or desires liberation, should worship the Supreme Lord. Of these three classes of men, one tries to be happy by fulfillment of material desires. Another wants to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme. And another, the perfect man, is a devotee. He does not want anything in return from the personality of Godhead. He only wants to render transcendental loving service. In any case, everyone should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he will fulfill everyone's desire. The advantage of worshiping the Supreme Person is that even if one has desires for material enjoyment, if he worships Krishna, he will gradually become a pure devotee and have no more material hankerings. Well, that last sentence is really the most important point. The advantage of worshiping the Supreme Person is that even if one has desires for material enjoyment, if he worships Krishna, he will gradually become a pure devotee and have no more material hankerings. Very, very important. Now, what does it mean by material hankerings? Well, they're just people can go through a whole lifetime having material hankerings, desires for sense gratification. That's what a material hankering is, uh, and it puts them into trouble because they can, like some people, some men or some women, they can have like 4 or 5 marriages. You know, especially movie stars or prominent, uh, movie stars. They uh, they can get married. They can say, "Well, this is my first ex, and this is my second ex, this is my third ex, and now I'm working on my fourth ex." And it's like a joke. Some women get married, 10 times in their life. Look up, who Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah,
Let's see how
was probably married for like 10 or so.
she got married to a lot of different men.
He had like 1950 first marriage with Conrad Nicky Hilton Jr. Then 1950 divorce was the following year, 51.
Only less than 1 year.
Then 1952 Michael Wilden, 5 years, 1957. And then again 1959 Eddie Fisher, and then another 5 years, 1964 divorce. And then Richard Burton, first marriage. The same guy,
Yeah.
first marriage in 1964 and lasted for 10 years. In 74, she divorced. And then in 76, she married John Warner and then divorced in 1982. And then again went back to Richard Burton, married him again in 75, only lasted for a year. 76. And then finally 91, married someone, and then 96. Yeah.
Yeah, total 8 husbands.
8 husbands.
I, Richard Burton, he was an actor twice.
Yeah.
And she had 7 husbands, including Richard Burton, but he married Richard Burton twice, so it's 8 marriages total.
Yeah. Probably get confused after a little while. And then you have children also with different husbands.
Children will be more confused.
Huh?
Children will be more confused with so many parents and
Yeah.
mother, father.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's because they're main, let's say, preoccupation in life is sense gratification. They're not satisfied. And therefore, they have divorce and they try and find somebody else, and they get another divorce and another divorce. And the same way, women have, abortions, they have one abortion, two abortions, three abortions, like that. Uh, and they're very, very selfish and they keep killing their own kids. So uh, people are not satisfied nowadays. Uh, and then also the change of sex of, like, for example, someone's born a boy and then he wants to become a girl. And then after some years, he realizes he wants to go back to become a boy. So there are people like that. Uh, there was one person in our temple a long time ago, and he was born a boy, but then he wanted to become a girl. So he had a operation, and then uh, at that point he came to the temple, and he was talking to me one day. He said, "Oh, the operation didn't work very well. So I get another operation or I have to, suffer the way I am now." So then he wrote a letter to Prabhupada about, his different operations, and he was a man, but then he became a girl, and then that operation didn't work so good. So then Prabhupada said, "Look, make up your mind who you are, and then stick to it. Don't go back and forth anymore in your life. Either you're a man or you're a woman. Make up your mind." That was Prabhupada's answer to him. Okay, so let's go on to the next verse. Verse number 16. Right? "Oh, my Lord, you are the master and leader of all living entities. Under your direction, all conditioned souls, as if bound by rope, are constantly engaged in satisfying their desire. Following them, O embodiment of religion, I also bear oblations for you who are eternal time." And this is a very interesting verse. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Katha Upanishad, it is stated that the Supreme Lord is the leader of all living entities. He is their sustainer and the awarder of all their necessities and desires. No living entity is independent. All are dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Vedic instruction is that one should enjoy life under the direction of the Supreme Leader, the personality of God. Vedic literatures like Ishopanishad direct that since everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not encroach upon another's property, but should enjoy one's individual allotment. The best program for every living entity is to take direction from the Supreme Lord and enjoy material or spiritual life. A question may be raised. Since Kardama Muni was advanced in spiritual life, why then did he not ask the Lord for liberation? Why did he want to enjoy material life in spite of his personally seeing and experiencing the Supreme Lord? Now, that's a really good question.
Mm.
The answer is that not everyone is competent to be liberated from material bondage. It is everyone's duty, therefore, to enjoy according to his present position, but under the direction of the Lord or the Vedas. The Vedas are considered to be the direct words of the Lord. The Lord gives us the opportunity to enjoy material life as we want. And at the same time, he gives directions for the modes and processes of abiding by the Vedas so that gradually one may be elevated to liberation from material bondage. The conditioned souls who have come to the material world to fulfill their desires, to lord it over material nature, are bound by the laws of nature. The best course is to abide by the Vedic rules. That will help one to be gradually elevated to liberation. Kardama Muni addresses the Lord as Sukla, which means the leader of religion. One who is pious should follow the rules of religion, for such rules are prescribed by the Lord himself. No one can manufacture or concoct a religion. Religion refers to the injunctions or laws of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that religion means to surrender unto him, meaning Krishna. Therefore, one should follow the Vedic regulations and surrender unto the Supreme Lord, because that is the ultimate goal of perfection in human life. One should live a life of piety. Piety means a spiritual life. Right? Follow the religious rules and regulations. Marry and live peacefully for elevation to the higher status of spiritual realization. Well, there it is. Prabhupada is recommending that everyone should get married. But in other places, they'll say better not to get married. So sometimes people get confused. But yeah, like Prabhupada told Bhakti Chiru Maharaj, don't get married. When he was very, very young. And Prabhupada said, don't get married. And Bhakti Chiru Maharaj listened to him, listened to Prabhupada, never got married. And for other people, it said you should get married. Yeah. So, but the best thing, Prabhupada said, well, the best thing is not to get married if you can control your desires. But if you can't, the material desires. But if you can't, then the best thing is to get married, because if you're married to a good wife, then she will help her husband control his desires, and they can live peacefully together. But if someone gets married and is overwhelmed with sex desire all the time, then there's a very good chance that there'll be a broken marriage over time. So the best thing is that boys be trained to be brahmacharis and girls be trained to be good brahmacharinis, so that when they get married, they're not overwhelmed by a desire for sense gratification. And they both can live peacefully and be able to control their mind and senses because of their involvement in Krishna consciousness. But if one is not trained properly, then they get married, and there's a great chance that they'll be divorced because they can't control their mind and senses. They haven't been taught to do that. But if you're trained in Krishna consciousness, especially even from an early age, then you learn how to control your mind and your senses, and therefore you can tolerate situations that you might get into and maintain a marriage throughout life, with no divorce. But and divorce is a very complicated thing. In, the people that suffer the most when there's divorce are the children. So basically, if men and women decide to get a divorce, it's because they're very selfish and they can't control their senses, Uh, and who suffers the most? The children. And sometimes, they're very nasty divorces where there's lawyers involved and money is involved and things like that. And the divorce process can go on for, a year or 2 or 3 or 4 years until it comes to an end. And then there's, you know, who's going to have the most time with the child. So it's usually the wife that gets most time with the child, but the husband also has the right to see the child. The whole thing is very confusing for children, and they don't know, why the mother and father have divorced. And sometimes they stay with the mother, sometimes they stay with the father, and it's very stressful for kids. Yeah.
One of my school friends, his parents are divorced.
Okay. Is he happy?
No, because during Mother's Day or Father's Day when they making gift or something, there's like school event, something happening to make it for like mom or dad. He's stressful because he has to stay at one's home. So if you think this year he was at Father's Day, he was staying at his mom's home. He wouldn't go to his dad's home normally. Only sometimes he would go, and he wouldn't be going to his dad's home. So when he was preparing that gift at school for his dad, he wouldn't be able to give it to him. So from my view, I think it's stressful for him.
Of course. Yeah. Especially if the the divorce was a difficult one with a lot of lawyers involved and fighting. And then after that, the husband and wife who divorced, they don't like each other. And, and sometimes the husband goes crazy and tries to, physically beat up the wife. And then the police come, and then the husband has to go to jail. And or else sometimes the husband kills the wife. Sometimes the wife will try and poison her husband. You look in the newspapers, you'll see all these type of things are happening all the time in the country. Or the husband hires some criminals to kill the wife, or the wife hires some criminals to kill the husband. It's happening a lot in the country. So nothing like learning to be satisfied with whatever Krishna gives you. Yes. What's it say?
Wife charged with attempted murder for allegedly trying to poison husband with antifreeze.
Whoa. Yeah.
A New York woman has been indicted on an
Indicted.
indicted on a on an attempted murder charge for allegedly trying to poison her estranged husband with antifreeze on multiple occasions, according to prosec-
Prosecute.
prosecutors.
Yeah.
Randy Burke, 40, of Holbrook on Long Island, allegedly tried to kill her husband. Matthew Burke at least 3 times by placing the chemical in multiple beverages to be consumed by her husband. Suffolk County District Attorney Timothy D. Stinney announced in a press release Thursday describing the case as extremely troubling.
Yeah. The this whole thing, divorce is it's devastating, especially for kids where the mother and father are arguing all the time, and then they have lawyers and they're going to court, and then the mother has the kid for so many days in the week, and then the father has the right to have the kid for a couple of days in the week also, and the whole thing is terrible. And who suffers the most? It's the children. Okay, so we are almost finished. Are there any questions? After Prabhupada got married, he told his father, he said, I don't like this girl. I want to marry someone else. And his father said, no, don't do that. Just be satisfied. Krishna gave you. And although Prabhupada didn't like that, he just listened to his father. And they had 5 kids. But he also said, I never liked my wife. Yeah. So what happened to did they do the horoscope? Maybe they did the horoscope. But
Yeah, I
still,
was about to ask, like, did they do the horoscope?
I think so. I think so. I don't know for sure.
Maharaj, in our like families,
Yeah.
like maybe last few generations that I know is we were following the horoscope very strictly, like
Yeah.
not doing anything without consulting our family astrologer.
Yeah.
And family astrologer, he was very good.
You have a family doctor, a family astrologer, so many different families, something.
Yeah, they did do that.
They did.
Mm.
Okay.
And everything we were following, like strict, whatever he says. But now his son is doing because he's passed away, and now things are diluting. They are more on money side rather than like helping side, like raising people.
Yeah.
Because I have personally experienced our previous one, like his father. He was very sincere, very sincere. His main goal is to help, and whatever we give donation, he was satisfied. But now they have a chart, like for this much, this much, this much,
Yeah.
minimum standards of payment.
Yeah.
So here, like, what
Business.
Prabhupada,
Business. Huh?
how Prabhupada's separation from his wife, just try to ask ChatGPT. So obviously, it gave 4 reasons. First is Prabhupada's spiritual inclination. Prabhupada was deeply influenced by his Guru Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and was increasingly drawn towards his spiritual calling. His commitment to teaching the Krishna consciousness began to take precedence over his household responsibilities. Number 2 is business failures. Prabhupada faced several business failures which created financial strain and added tension to their marriage. Despite these setbacks, Prabhupada remained focused on his spiritual practices and writing. Then number 3 is the incident with tea. A significant turning point in their relationship was an incident involving tea. Prabhupada disapproved of drinking tea, considering it a distraction from spiritual life. One day he returned home to find that his wife had sold some of his sacred Bhagavatam scriptures to buy tea. This incident deeply affected Prabhupada and led him to conclude that his wife did not share his spiritual values and aspirations. Finally, in 1959, decision to renounce. Prabhupada took the renounced order of life known as sannyasa. This decision marked a formal separation from his wife and family. By taking sannyasa, Prabhupada committed himself fully to his spiritual mission, which included writing, translating, and eventually founding the ISKCON in 1966.
Good thing he did it. Or else we wouldn't be here. Okay. I think we're at the end of the lecture today. Unless there's some more questions from outside.
Yeah, any questions on those on the call?
One observation, Maharaj. So even when we have material desires, we're still able to see Krishna face to face. That's the takeaway from
Is it in the purport?
I mean, it happened for even Dhruva Maharaj. It happened now for Kardama Muni.
Even though they have material desires, they're able to see Krishna. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Yeah. But it depends on the intensity of seeing the Lord.
Okay. All right, let me just, so this is verse 16, right?
16.
A question may be asked, since Kardama Muni was advanced in spiritual life, why then did he not ask the Lord for liberation? Why did he want to enjoy material life in spite of his personally seeing and experiencing the Supreme Lord? Very good question. The answer is that not everyone is competent to be liberated from material bondage. It is everyone's duty, therefore, to enjoy according to his present position, but under the direction of the Lord or the Vedas. The Vedas are considered to be the direct words of the Lord. The Lord gives us the opportunity to enjoy material life as we want, and at the same time, he gives direction for the modes and processes of abiding by the Vedas, so that gradually one may be elevated to liberation from material bondage. The conditioned souls who have come to the material world to fulfill their desires to lord it over material nature are bound by the laws of nature. The best course is to abide by the Vedic rules that will help one to be gradually elevated to liberation. Okay, so here we see that even though one has strong material desires, still they can function in Krishna consciousness and gradually overcome those material, let's say, desires. But it might not be right away. It might take time. It says the answer is that not everyone is competent to be liberated from material bondage. It is everyone's duty, therefore, to enjoy according to his present position, but under the direction of the Lord or the Vedas. The Vedas are considered to be the direct words of the Lord. The Lord gives us the opportunity to enjoy material life as we want. And at the same time, he gives directions for the modes and processes of abiding by the Vedas so that gradually one may be elevated to liberation from material bondage. The conditioned souls who have come to the material world to fulfill their desires to lord it over material nature are bound by the laws of nature. The best course is to abide by the Vedic rules that will help one be gradually elevated to liberation. So this is reality. It's not that uh, overnight someone becomes a pure devotee. It can take a long time to actually dovetail all your desires into Krishna consciousness. So here, that's why Prabhupada said it is everyone's duty, therefore, to enjoy according to his present position, but under the direction of the Lord or the Vedas. So he's not rejecting the desire to enjoy sense gratification, but it should be under the direction of a guru or let me see if that's correct, but under the direction of the Lord or the Vedas. It is everyone's duty, therefore, to enjoy according to his present position, but under the direction of the Lord or the Veda. So everything has to be under the control of the Vedas or the spiritual master. So there is what you would call some, in America, they use this term, there's some wiggle room, right? There's some opportunity to engage in sense gratification and still be on the spiritual path. But it has to be under the control of the spiritual master and the shastras. It can't be whimsical. Okay, so we will stop there unless there are any questions.
Alright, the line that you've just read, there is a one word called duty. You can explain this, like it is therefore everyone's duty to enjoy according to his present position. Where this question has asked.
Well, there's,
Duty means that
you have to follow the Vedic rules and regulations. You're duty bound to follow them. But the Vedas give possibility of regulated sense gratification. So, in other words, it should not be whimsical. You know, today I'll follow the rules, tomorrow I won't follow the rules. It's got to be duty bound, and you are given a certain, let's say, measure of sense gratification. Uh, but with the idea that since it's controlled, eventually you'll give it up. It's just like uh, there are rules how to kill animals and eat them. In the Vedas, the rule is that you're allowed to kill one black goat per month and eat it. Right? And you have to say some mantras. And mantras basically is that now I am killing you, my dear goat, and it's got to be a black goat, right? But I understand that in the next life, you will take birth as a human being, and I'll take birth as a black goat, and you will kill me. So you have to say that mantra. Right? So eventually, you keep saying that mantra. Eventually, it sinks into your mind. Oh my God, what am I doing? That means that I'm going to take birth as a goat in my next life, and I'm going to be slaughtered. And maybe I shouldn't do this. So in the beginning, you might just, whisper the mantra, and then go on your merry way, killing the goat and eating it. But then after a little while, you might begin to think more seriously. So what am I doing? This is crazy. It's going to mean that I'm going to take birth over and over again and get slaughtered. And I shouldn't do this. So you have a chance to be, let's say, introspective by saying these mantras. My dear goat, now I'm going to kill you and eat you. But I understand that in the future, I will take birth as a goat, and you will take birth as a human being, and you will kill me and eat me. So therefore, if you repeat the mantra uh, before you kill the goat, sometimes after saying the mantra once, twice, three times, maybe the fourth time, you think, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing here? That means that I'm going to become a goat and I'm going to be killed and be eaten. I'm not going to do this anymore. But if you don't say any mantra, you don't follow any rules and regulations, then you're in complete darkness, complete ignorance. So you go on merrily, eating animals, and then the next life you become a goat, or you become, some kind of lower form of life, and you get caught in the process of birth, death, old age, and disease. So repeating these mantras are very important. So there's a mantra you have to repeat before you kill, a goat. And basically it's saying, I'm going to kill this goat now, but in the future, I'll become a goat and this goat will become a human being and kill me. So if you say that enough, eventually it'll sink into your mind. You say, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's too, because the consequences are too severe. Honeyball.